Recently, I've been wondering something. But why do people still continue to play Skyrim, a 14-year-old game which has already been re-released several times already? Why people still play Bethesda games, especially after their recent track record with games like Fallout 76 being a complete disaster and Starfield receiving really mixed reviews? What exactly is it that draws people into their games? Because I'm gonna be very honest, I'm not really into their games. Like, I remember playing Skyrim a few years back, but it didn't really click with me like it did with other people. Maybe it's a nostalgia thing, or maybe I just have bad taste in games, or it's just because the game is quite clunky and outdated now. Anyway, in this video, I try to figure out why their game still continues to appeal to gamers. Before I get into this video, I would appreciate it if you guys hit the like and also subscribe to my channel. It would really mean the world to me. But without further ado, let's get right into it. Now, Bethesda has been around the gaming industry for quite some time, since the late 80s. The company is almost 40 years old now, and they have made many noteworthy games throughout their existence. But none came close to being as successful as Skyrim, which I'd argue really introduced a lot more people into gaming in general and also RPGs. But getting to the topic, why do people find their games appealing? And I think it has a lot to do with Bethesda's game design, as with games such as Elder Scrolls or Fallout, you can pretty much roleplay as anyone. You can do as you please, like tackling the quests the way you like, exploring dungeons at your own pace, getting involved with certain factions, or just chill in a small town and start a family. The choice is yours and the game doesn't stop you for it. The sense of freedom that you get from Bethesda games is unlike any other big AAA open world game, which makes it a strong fantasy to immerse yourself in. Like, you can literally play the whole game of Skyrim without ever finishing the main questline, and that is something very few games can achieve. Bethesda games also often let you choose factions such as the Dark Brotherhood, the Thieves Guild, or the Brotherhood of Steel, which have completely different storylines, which adds more to the replay value of the game, even though the consequences for making such a choice might not be as severe. Secondly, it's no doubt that Bethesda crafts some of the most immersive worlds, from snowy ice peaks and medieval towns of Skyrim to the giant wastelands of Fallout, and it invites players to explore at their own pace and discover their own stories, and there's so much you can discover in their worlds. It's truly a world to get lost in. And to top it all off, you have the beautiful score from the likes of Jeremy Soule that does wonders to draw you into the world. Again, you can completely explore at your own pace, which is the freedom I was talking about. You're also free to pick your own playstyle and play the game in a certain way. So if you're into an extremely aggressive playstyle, you can just level up your skills in combat. If you're more of a player focusing on ranged combat, there's also options for that. Or you can just play the game stealthily. This would unlock more skills for that certain playstyle in the skill tree, the more you use those skills. So the progression throughout their games feels very personal and geared towards what the player wants to play as. Again, adding to that role-playing fantasy that players really want. Other RPGs such as The Witcher 3 do feel a lot more restrictive in terms of playstyle. Sure, it has a much better story, graphics and gameplay, it still lacks what Skyrim has, which is a variety of choice for players. Of course, I can't do this video without mentioning the insane modding scene of their games. The modding community of Elder Scrolls and Fallout has been one of the best I've ever seen for a video game. You can literally change the whole game into something else entirely through mods. And the modders are given full freedom by Bethesda to do whatever they want without getting in legal trouble, which is insane. And the amount of stuff that the community has come up with is pretty crazy. From designing armor and weapons to straight up making an entirely different game. Hell, I'd even argue that the modders can sometimes do a much better job than the devs themselves. And what is more crazy is how easy and accessible the modding process is for players. It's not really as complicated as other games, as it involves installing a mod manager, adding in your game files, downloading your mod and running it through the program. And the amount of crazy mods available just leaves players spoiled for choice. You really can't transform a game like the way you can with Bethesda games, with mods such as Enderall and Falskar from Skyrim that completely transform the game by taking place in a completely different world and have different sets of characters and a completely new and original story. Enderall is literally a brand new game. There's also the upcoming Skyblivion mod, which aims to combine both Skyrim and Oblivion into one game, which is crazy, but these mods are extremely ambitious and 9 times out of 10 do achieve what they set out to do. There are also lots of unpredictable and unintentionally funny moments that can come across in the Elder Scrolls. Sometimes the NPCs are just broken and do and say weird shit, but that's part of the charm. That's also the reason why Oblivion is still so well known today amongst the community. I wouldn't necessarily say that this makes the game's world more alive, but definitely does give players a good chuckle and a fond memory to look back on. And stuff like this is really hard to encounter in other games. I don't know why, but Bethesda games are the only ones which can make glitches and technical issues look charming. The other games, they're just a hindrance and irritating. Another thing which makes these games stand out in my opinion is the storytelling. Now, I'm not really talking about the main story of their games, but the environmental storytelling, where the story is revealed through exploring the world itself. This is actually a bit similar to From Software games, as there's just so much going on in the world design of those games. In Skyrim, for example, you can come across a forgotten dungeon or a book that could or could not link to a quest, or an abandoned camp that could reveal what happened to the adventurers. This is again what compels players to play these games, as they aren't really tied down to just doing and finishing the main story. They can explore and find their own stories in the world and also discover what exactly happened by themselves. There's also the lore of Elder Scrolls, which I heard is super interesting, and people who really like to uncover the story of the world on their own, this is definitely the type of game for them. And lastly, with the popular Amazon Prime show adaptation of Fallout released back in 2023, it's no surprise that more people are willing to give their games a shot. Of course, there's also a lot of flaws with Bethesda's game design too. Firstly, how outdated the graphics of the games look, especially if you compare Skyrim to other games that came out in 2011. That is because they still use the same creation engine, which is pretty old now. This is why their games have pretty poor animation and facial character models, which definitely looks really bad if you compare to the standards of the modern gaming industry. Even Starfield, a game that came out just 2 years ago, looks like a game from 10 years ago. This in turn also makes the NPCs and the characters that you encounter very bland and boring to interact with, which is not the same with its contemporaries like The Witcher 3, Baldur's Gate 3 and more. There's also the main storylines and the choices you make in them being pretty inconsistent with each other. The combat in their games is also pretty clunky and not that fun to interact with, especially given that you'll be interacting with those systems quite frequently, and there's just more. No wonder the games need mods to fix it. Despite all these flaws, people still keep playing these games, and I think it's a lot to do with comfort. A lot of people just like to go back to a familiar place, something they did or played as a kid, as it gives them a sense of security and familiarity with what they seek. Which I guess is the reason why these types of players might hesitate to try out newer games, as they feel that it's too much out of their comfort zone. I could be wrong, but I don't know. Also, the years of emotional investment that people have had with Skyrim is too much for them to let go. That's why fans of the original still keep going back to it, as they want to re-experience everything that they did during their first playthrough. These are the major reasons why I believe people come back to their games, and they will continue to do so with Elder Scrolls 6 or whatever they have in store for us, because it's just the sort of games that players can't really get anywhere else. The closest to Bethesda games you can probably get are the Obsidian games, but their games are a lot more smaller in scope and design, especially with a game like Avowed that recently released. It's really hard to find a better alternative than Bethesda. I do sincerely hope that they can certainly evolve and innovate with Elder Scrolls 6 in the horizon, because making Skyrim with a different coat of paint this time just wouldn't work, as you could already see with Starfield. They can't keep relying on nostalgia and mods to fix their games for them, and I do hope that they see that. Either way, the appeal of Bethesda games lies in their imperfections, as well as their ambition to deliver immersive open worlds with full freedom to explore, where you have the freedom of choice to be whatever type of character you want to, what stories and quests you want to do, which people you want as your companions, which mods you want to install to further enhance your own experience, or just witnessing what's happening in the world around you, which serves as the ultimate fantasy that Bethesda games give you as a player. Sure, it's not always the most polished or consistent, but these are games that are very much yours to experience. Especially in an age of cinematic and narrative heavy games with very little control given to the player, their games stand out as they don't take away the freedom and choice that the player rightfully deserves. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Like and subscribe if you did. Please let me know what you think of Bethesda games in the comments below. And also, I'd appreciate it if you can provide suggestions as to what other content you want for the future of this channel. I've been working on a big project lately, which is taking much longer than expected, but should be done soon hopefully. Anyway, hope you guys have a great day, and I will see you guys very soon with another video. Here's me signing out.